everybody. So it's before sunrise, or just as sunrise is about to happen, and I just can't seem to sleep any further. So I thought this would be the perfect time for us to get started with our movement practice while we are in isolation, while we are in lockdown. So my name is Dr. Carita de Jong. I am a chiropractor from Kindred Chiropractic, which you will know if you are following this on our Kindred Chiropractic Instagram or Facebook. But if your friends have shared this with you, if you are joining in on the Yoga with an online community, then please feel free to follow Kindred Chiropractic on Facebook or Instagram as well. But we will continue to share all of these videos between the two communities so we can all maintain our wellness and our movement. So as a chiropractor, I always encourage my patients to keep their bodies moving, because a lack of proper movement, but a lack of movement in general, is what will cause the spine to degenerate. So what I thought we would focus on with our first session today is to, number one, find our breath and breathe properly, because that's been pretty challenging to do in the last few days, but also to get all the parts of our spine moving. So as we go through the variations, because I'm not there in person to adjust things as we go, I do encourage you to listen to your body. If I'm offering a variation that doesn't quite feel right and we're feeling any bad pain in the joints, make the movement smaller, make the movement slower, or you can just step it back, because I will give you some options to do and you can just stick with the variation that works for you. So let's get started by lying down onto our backs, and you can have a mat set out, you can have a towel, or just flat on the ground. And we are going to have our knees bent and our feet hip distance apart, so about sitting bone distance apart. And we want to try and have the feet as parallel as possible, because we want everything to be nice and aligned. And we're going to take a moment just to feel what our breathing is like. So breathing in through the nose, if that's possible for you at the moment, and out either through the nose or the mouth. And as we breathe in, we want to feel that there's some movement in our rib cage going out to the sides. And when we exhale, it should feel like the ribs are coming together a little bit, and we can feel some activation through our abdominals. Inhale, ribs expand out to the side. And as we exhale, ribs come together, and maybe you can feel the belly button sink in towards the spine a little bit. So that when your abdominals activate, we don't have the abdominals sticking out, but instead that the abdominals are coming into the body. Now the next time you exhale, we're going to gently rock the pelvis backwards. So it's like the tailbone comes up off the ground and the lower back flattens against the mat. Inhale to release that, let the tailbone go back down. As you exhale, the pelvis rocks backwards, lower back hugs the mat, and inhale, the tailbone releases again. We'll go through a few of these movements just nice and slowly. It doesn't have to be exaggerated. It doesn't have to feel like we are pushing the lower back against the mat. We just want to feel that we're getting some movement through the pelvis and through the lower back. And we can start to include a little bit of movement through the rib cage as well, and get the upper abdominals involved. So as you exhale and rock back, we can feel like our rib cage closes in a little bit. It's almost like you're wearing a corset that's slowly being tightened in towards the center. Now let's do one more like that, trying to keep the chest and the throat out of it nice and relaxed. Maybe that's just me this morning. And slowly releasing. Now we're going to keep the pelvis in our neutral position, so that means the starting position we had
before we rock the pelvis back. So we've got a little bit of a gap between the lower back and the mat. Now we're going to take a deep breath in, and as you exhale, we want to feel the belly button go down. We're going to bring our one leg up to a tabletop position, and that can be either leg, it doesn't matter. Tabletop position means that we've got the knee above the hip and we've got the shin parallel to the ground. And from here, find balance in the pelvis, so we're not rocking off to one side. Then we're going to take a breath in, and as you exhale, just feel the belly button come in again and the ribcage close, so we've got the spine nice and stable and the pelvis balanced. As you inhale, we're going to tap the toe down towards the mat, and exhale, we're slowly going to bring the leg back up. Inhale to let it lower, tapping the tippy toe down, and exhale to bring it back up. And let's do a few more, continuing with your breath. And if the breath feels better for you the other way around, then absolutely do that. I prefer the exhale when the abdominals activate to be on the hardest part of my movement, which for me is bringing the leg back up. Now, when we are tapping the toe down and bringing the leg back up, the further you reach the toes, the more challenging it'll be. But the goal of this is to keep your pelvis and your lower back really steady, so that we're activating our lower abdominals a little bit more than we are just rocking and moving through the pelvis and the lower back at the moment. Let's do one more on this side. And then once we've brought it up, we can let the foot lower down, find balance in the pelvis, breathing in. And as you exhale, slowly peel the left foot off the ground. Bring the leg to a tabletop position again, finding balance, stabilizing the spine. Inhale, touch the tippy toe down, and exhale to bring the leg back up. Now it's okay if your toe doesn't actually make it to the ground, so you're just moving towards the ground, and once again it's about keeping the lower back nice and stable, so we're getting some activation and some stability from our lower abdominals. Because when we start to move a little bit more through the spine, it's the abdominals that will keep things nice and stable and nice and protected for the lower back. And we'll go for two more on the side, keeping chest relaxed and neck relaxed. And after the second one, let's hold the leg up in tabletop. If you can, exhale, bring the other leg up to tabletop as well, and that's going to be a little bit more challenging. So if you find that both legs up in tabletop is not working for your body today, or you feel it in your back in a bad way, then just switch your legs around so you do the first leg again, but with one foot down. Now we can alternate the movement if we've got two legs up, so we can go inhale, touch the tippy toe down, exhale, bring it back up, and then we can change sides. So moving nice and controlled, nice and slow with your breath. And I know that my breath rate is a little bit slower than most people's. So if you find that your breath moves a little bit faster, then you can set your own rhythm with your breath. So don't let me slow you down and feel like you need to breath hold at all. But also see if you can have control over the breath, that we are not rushing. And we're not trying to either match our breath to a really fast movement or speeding up a movement to catch up with a really anxious breath rate this morning. Let's do one more on each side. And then once you are nice and even, we can let the knees fall into the chest so that the lower back flattens against the mat. We can hug the knees and we can have a little rock from side to side. Or maybe you want to draw some circles over the lower back, or like a figure 8 movement over the sacrum and the back of the pelvis. Now from there, we're going to bring the feet down onto the ground one at a time, and we're going to have the feet together, and we're going to bring the knees together as well. You can take your arms a little bit wider on your mat, so just off the sides of the mat if you're limited in space, or you can take it out into a T shape, whatever works for you. Now from here, we're going to take a breath in, and when you exhale, rock the pelvis backwards a little bit so you can feel that hug of the lower back against the mat, close the ribs. Now you can keep the feet on the ground if you'd like, if your lower back prefers that, or you can bring the legs up into a tabletop position if that feels alright. Now I want you to feel the heaviness of your shoulder blades against your mat and the neck nice and relaxed and released. And we're going to inhale to take the knees over to one side, and the pelvis will move a little bit, but we want to keep the shoulders nice and still. And as you exhale, use your abdominals to bring it back towards the center. So inhale, take the legs over to the other side because we're going to alternate sides. And exhale to bring it back. Now if the feet are on the ground, the same thing goes. Inhale, knees over to the side, shoulders stay heavy. Exhale, use your abdominals to bring it back towards the center, and your belly button goes down. Inhale over to the other side, and exhale to bring it back. Now this might feel pretty good to you, whether just having some mobility through the lower back eases some back ache for you. But if the lower back isn't an issue and you're going, oh yeah, I can feel my abdominals and I'm really into it, especially if we've got the legs up in tabletop, then you can extend the legs up towards the ceiling. And then you can go inhale, straight legs over, and you might not get quite as far. And exhale, use the abdominals to bring it back towards the center. And I really encourage you to make this a process of curiosity and getting to know your body, because what works for one person, especially if you're working out with a friend or a family member today, might not work for you. So we can work our way up with all of the variations. We don't have to do every variation today. And let's go for one more so that you're nice and even on both sides. And then we can bring the feet back on towards the ground. And then we are going to bring the feet hip distance apart and parallel again. And we're going to start to include a little bit more motion through the lower back and through the pelvis. So feet are parallel, feet planted down, and I want you to be able to feel your big toes, your little toes, and your heels pushing down into the ground. And when you push down a little bit, you're going to feel that there's some activation through the backs of the legs and our glutes. We're going to take a breath in to lengthen the spine, and as you exhale, you're going to rock your pelvis back to peel the tailbone, the lower back, off the mat. Now once we're lifted, we're just going to hang out here for a second, and you can breathe normally because this top part of the movement is really important, especially if you are a yogi and you practice a lot of yoga. The back or our shoulder bridge tends to be a little bit of a back bend as well, and with our Pilates practice that's not quite the way. So where we want to be is with the rib cage a little bit closed. So maybe feel like the belly button drops down towards the ground a little bit and the ribs close a little bit. And it's okay if the pelvis drops a little. And then we want to have a feeling that the pelvis rocks back ever so gently, so it feels like your tailbone just looks up at the ceiling. And once we do that, we'll feel that we can feel the backs of the legs and we can feel the glutes a little bit more. And then if your knees have fallen out to the side, can we just bring them back into a parallel with the hips? Now let's take a breath in here. And as you exhale, let your chest melt, the spine melt down, one bone at a time, keeping the tailbone lifted until the end when we inhale and the tailbone can release down. So let's do that again. So exhale, rock the pelvis back. Push the feet into the ground a little bit more. Peel the spine up, but keep your rib cage heavy. So don't push your belly button up. Inhale to hold up at the top. Feel the knees reach out over the toes. And exhale, melt the chest down. And let's slowly lower down, one bone at a time. Don't forget about the lower back. And inhale, tailbone goes down. Two more like that. So exhale, let's rock the pelvis back. Peel up one bone at a time, keeping the belly button heavy. Knees stay parallel. Inhale, hold, squeeze the backs of the legs. And as you exhale, let's melt it down nice and slowly. Now on this next one, you may choose to continue to rise up and lower down, but if you can, exhale, let's slowly roll up. And if you can, we're going to stay lifted. And from here, we're going to take a breath in, relax the chest, exhale, belly button in, tail tucked a little bit, knees reaching out over the toes. If you can, exhale, we can peel one foot off the ground and bring the leg up to a tabletop position. Now, if we can manage that, we can inhale to lower the pelvis down just a few inches, and exhale, squeeze the back of the other leg on the ground to lift the pelvis back up. Inhale to lower down a little, and exhale, squeeze to lift. And let's continue to do that. And I want you to pay really close attention to your pelvis, that we're not rocking off to the side, but we're keeping it nice and level with the ground. This is going to be quite challenging on the hamstring and the glute that's still on the ground. And exhale, squeeze to lift. Last one, exhale, squeezing to lift. And then we can inhale, lower the foot down. And you can either exhale to lower the spine down to take a break, or we can just find balance in the pelvis, but we'll all meet with the pelvis lifted again. We're going to take a breath in. As you exhale, peeling the other leg up to a tabletop position. And we want to keep the pelvis nice and steady, rib cage in, belly button low. And then we can inhale to lower the pelvis down a few inches. Exhale, squeeze the foot down into the ground. Squeeze the back of the leg to lift. Inhale to lower down. And exhale, squeeze to lift. Now, just like before when we were trying to bring the knees back to parallel, with the foot that's on the ground, don't let the knee fall out to the side. Bring it back to the center. We've got 3 more to go on the side with your own breath rate at your own pace. So take your time. So we're still working on some mobility through that lower back, going into the mid back. And last one, squeezing to lift. Let's inhale, lower the foot down, and exhale, slowly lowering the pelvis down. Now you can decide your choice, either hugging the knees in towards the chest and having a little rock from side to side, or we can do a few of those window wipers again with the legs, just nice and slowly, if you feel like you need a little bit of movement through the lower back. Now from there, we're going to roll through our side and push ourselves up onto all fours. And we're going to work through the mobility through the mid back a little bit more. So once we're on all fours, we want to bring our hands underneath the shoulders, and we want to spread the fingers nice and wide. And we're going to bring the knees underneath the hips, which I really hope that mine is. I've never recorded myself, so this is definitely going to be a humbling experience for me. From there, we want to find length through the spine. So we've got the elbows a little bit unlocked so we can slide the shoulder blades down the back. And the neck, we want to make sure that we're not looking up or letting the head drop down, just nice and in the middle in our neutral spine. If your belly button has dropped down towards the ground, can you pick that up a little bit and maybe tuck the sitting bones down towards the heels very gently so we feel a little lift through our abdominals. Now we're going to take a breath in here to feel the expansion of the rib cage out to the sides. And as you exhale, the ribs come back in towards the center. So let's do that a few more times. Inhale, ribs expand out to the side. And exhale, come in towards the center. And the purpose of doing this is to make sure that we're not inhaling by collapsing the spine. We can keep the spine stable while the rib cage moves and we still get a nice deep breath. Now on the next inhale, lengthen the spine. And as you exhale, we're going to drop the tail, lift the belly button, push the hands into the ground, let the head drop, coming into our cat stretch. And as we inhale, we're slowly going to unfold that, and we're going to come to a neutral position, or maybe you can lift through the chest to have a little extension. Exhale, slowly pushing up into our cat stretch again. Now everybody's mid-back mobility is very different, so it can look different on everybody. But we want to make sure that you get the most out of this. So close your eyes and feel what this is feeling like for you. So take your expectation out of it, of what it is supposed to look like. So maybe as you exhale, you can tuck your tail first, lift the belly, then push the backs of the shoulder blades up and drop the head. Then maybe you uncurl from the tailbone, the lower back, the mid-back, up towards the neck.
Or maybe you go from the other side where you drop
The head first, push the shoulder blades up, then tuck the tail at the end. So decide what works for you and get a few more movements out of this.
Last 2 breaths.
And the last one. So exhale, reaching it up. And then bringing it back to a neutral. Now we're going to use that movement but make it just a little bit more challenging so we get a little bit more abdominal work happening. So from here, let's take a deep breath in. And as you exhale, let's reach the right arm forward, still touching the ground. And reach the left leg back, still touching the ground. And I want you to find balance in the pelvis. So we're not rocking off to one side and collapsing. Your left shoulder blade is still reaching down your back. And the belly is lifted in towards the spine. We're going to take a breath in. And as we exhale, can we lift those 2 points off the ground, focusing on length rather than height, so we keep the mobility of the spine. Now, you're more than welcome to just inhale, touch those 2 points down, and exhale to lift those 2 points up again. So that way we'll still get a lot of abdominal and shoulder girdle work. But if you can, inhale, you can lift those 2 points up a little higher and maybe look up towards the hand. And as you exhale, we can bring the elbow and the knee towards each other and go into our cat stretch where we drop the head and look down at the knee. Inhale to reach long. Maybe there's a little lift through the chest. And exhale. Tapping together, dropping the head. So there is a big shift in your eye line here, so it is a bit of a challenge on our stability and our balance. Let's go for one more. Inhale to reach long. And exhale, squeezing together. And let's drop that down. Find your center. Maybe you want to give the wrists a little bit of a roll if that is a tender area for you. And then let's find that lengthened spine. We're going to take a breath in. And as we exhale, let's take the left arm forward, still touching the ground. Exhale, right leg back, so opposite arm and leg. Stabilize the pelvis level with the ground. Shoulder blades down, breathing in. As we exhale, we can slowly lift those 2 points up, and you can continue to tap those down and lift. Otherwise, inhale, lifting, and exhale, folding in. Inhale to reach long, maybe there's a little lift. And exhale, elbow towards knee, drop the head, arch through the spine. Now it's okay if you wobble. Extra wobbles will mean that we get extra abdominal work to try and stabilize you. And if you're working out with your family, it's a wonderful time to giggle at each other. Let's do one more here, nice and long, and slowly bringing it back. And then reaching long, touch those 2 points down, slide them back into place. And from there we can either come into a kneeling position with the knees underneath the hips. Otherwise, if kneeling isn't great for your knees, you can come up to standing as well. Now from here, we're going to bring the hands together in front of the chest, and we're going to have the elbows out to the sides. And you can just stay nice and still, but I'll change my position a few times so that you know what I'm doing when I'm behind my back or from the side. So elbows are lifted, shoulders are down, neck is long. We're going to take a breath in without rising the shoulders. And as you exhale, we're going to squeeze the heels of the hands together. As you inhale, we're going to interlace the hands. And when you exhale, push the hands forward and allow the spine to round. Let the head drop a little bit. Now, keeping the head in between the hands or the arms, we're going to inhale to roll the body up really slowly, arms up above the head. And as you exhale, reach the arms wide to the side, pulling the fingernails back towards you. And then as we inhale, take the hands behind the chair or behind the back. Exhale to reach the arms back, and there's a little lift through the chest. Don't just throw the head back. And inhale to release, and let's come back to the beginning. 2 more rounds of that. So exhale,
pushing the hands together, shoulders down. Inhale to interlace. Exhale to reach forward, letting the head drop down. Inhale to roll up slowly, shoulders stay down. Exhale, reach the hands wide apart, palms reaching away. Inhale, interlace the hands behind your back. Exhale, push the knuckles down as the chest lifts a little bit. And inhale to release, and we'll come back to the beginning for the last round. So exhale, squeezing together. Inhale to interlace. Exhale to push away and round a little. Inhale to roll it up slowly. And exhale to reach wide out to the sides with the shoulders down. Feel the shoulder blades come together. Inhale, hands behind the back. Exhale to reach down, little lift through the chest. And then slowly releasing. Now from here, bring your fingertips onto your shoulders. And I don't want you to think a lot of weight. It's almost like your shoulders are being weighted down by a feather. We're going to draw some circles with our elbows. So maybe we're starting with our circles backwards. Or maybe you're going forward, whatever works for you. And I want you to feel that that weight of the feather on the shoulder keeps it down. So we don't want to be circling with the whole shoulder blade and the neck. We want to think about the upper arm bone moving in the shoulder socket. And maybe you can make that movement a little bit bigger if that's available to you. But if you do have shoulder issues, it might mean that your movement is quite small, and that's okay. And let's change direction if you haven't done that already. Or maybe going one direction feels awesome to you today, and you can just continue to do that. And let's go for one more. And we can bring the arms down. Going to do a little bit of a neck stretch, but I want you to be really cautious of this. What I do find in the practice and in the studio quite often is that people really want to overstretch their necks and get to the biggest range of motion possible. I want you to work within your normal range of motion, so don't push it further than it wants to go. So finding length through the spine, whether you're kneeling or standing, we're going to take a breath in to lengthen. And as you exhale, let your head drop off to one side, ear to shoulder. And maybe we can just hold it here for a second and take another breath in. Let the shoulders drop down. Now the same side that you drop towards, we're going to use that arm and we're going to bring it around, and I want you to create a little hook with the fingers. And we're not pushing down towards the ground, we're almost hooking the tissue above the ear, and the direction we're going to go in is that way, up towards the ceiling. So as we take a breath in, shoulders down, as we exhale, gripping that tissue and giving it a gentle pull up towards the ceiling. Inhale, you can ease that off a little bit, and like I said, don't push down towards the ground, think more about a lifting. And we'll do one more here, and exhale, little lift. Now keep your head in that position when we bring the arm down towards the ground. And then we're going to turn the nose down towards your armpit. And once we're there, it might feel good to you just to stay there. But maybe you can add a little nod. But I'm talking micro movement, so you'll probably not even be able to see mine on camera. And then we're going to roll the nose down towards the center and slowly roll the neck up so that we can do the other side. So shoulders are down. We're going to exhale to let the ear drop towards the shoulder, keeping it in that position, feeling a bit of a stretch down the side of the neck. So don't push it further than it wants to go. Using the same side arm, forming a little hook with the fingers, holding onto the tissue above your ear. Don't push down to the ground. As you exhale, think about that hook pulling up towards the corner where the wall meets the ceiling. And inhale to release. Two more like that. And if anything feels too intense for you, then please back it off and just stick with the movement that works for you. And when we release the arm, leave your head in that position. Slowly roll the nose down towards your armpit. And little micro movements nodding the neck. And on this side, I do have a little bit more movement, so maybe you'll be able to see it on this side. And from there, rolling the nose down towards the center. And then slowly bringing it all the way back up. Beautiful, beautiful work. I'm going to keep my videos quite short as we start our isolation period, because I think our minds are still very busy at the moment, so I want to make little manageable chunks for you that you can also go back to. So if maybe later today you go, yep, that was great, want to do it again, you can repeat it, or you could just do it a second time around. So if you want to, go back to the beginning of the video and you can just do it again. If you've got any requests on things that you want to be working on, please let me know so that I can keep on assisting you in this time when you're at home. Because the things that I teach on the mat are the lifestyle exercises or lifestyle advice I tend to give people in any way. And of course you are unique and you're going to need some different things, so please get in touch if you do. Otherwise, I will see you again later.